Good evening and welcome to the August 28th, 2018 Titusville City Council meeting at 6:30. We do have a quorum. I'll call this meeting to order. The first business of the night is a invocation. Is there a minister that would like to talk? We'll give the invocation. I see none. Before we have a moment of silence, please, everyone, please remember a true American hero, Senator John McCain, in your prayers. Thank you. Please join me in a moment of silence. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our next order of business is approval of minutes.
I'd move to approve the minutes of the regular City Council meeting on July 24th, 2018, and a special City Council meetings on August 7th and August 15th.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or corrections? Not hearing any. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Anyone opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously. Special recognitions and presentations. I think we completed them all in the last meeting. Go on to the next. Boards and commissions.
Yes, sir. The Planning and Zoning Commission, currently there's one vacancy for a regular member with a term to expire on January 31st, 2019, and one vacancy for an alternate member with a term to expire January 31st, 2020. There's currently one application on file for your consideration. Mr. Dwight Sievers has expressed his willingness and desire to serve on this commission as a regular member with an unexpired term to expire on January 31st, 2019. There are no other applications on file for your consideration.
We have one person. Would somebody like to make a motion?
I would make that motion. I'd move to appoint Dwight Sievers to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion except by Mr. Sievers? No. Okay. You said except, not. I have a motion and a second. No further discussion. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, like sign. You're on, sir. Next is North Brevard Commission on Parks and Rec.
The terms of regular members, Dr. Vernon Clay and William Klein, expire August 31st, 2018. Members Clay and Klein have expressed their willingness and desire to continue to serve on this board as City Council appointees and have requested a reappointment for two-year term to expire on August 31st, 2020. There are no other applications on file for your consideration.
Anyone like to make a motion on it?
I'd like to make that motion with a quick comment, if I could.
Go right ahead.
Being on that board, North Brevard Parks and Recreation, I just simply want to say that Dr. Clay and Mr. Klein take that role very seriously, represent us very well. Again, I can't say enough about them. They were on the board when I got there, and they clearly were leaders on that board. So it's my honor to nominate, or make the motion, I should say, for members Dr. Vernon Clay and William Klein to be re-put on that board.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously. Next item, sir.
North Brevard Library District Board member Bruce Morgan has submitted his resignation effective August 21st, 2018. His term expires on September 30th, 2019. Staff recommends you accept the resignation of member Bruce Morgan with a term to expire on September 30th, 2019. His resignation was effective August 21st, 2018.
Do I have a motion?
I'd move to accept the resignation of Bruce Morgan from the North Brevard Library District Board with regrets.
regrets? Good, very good. You remember that one. Any, do I have a second? Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, same sign. It is done unanimously. Next item, please, sir.
Space Coast Planning and Transportation Citizen Advisory Committee. There's currently one vacancy for the City of Titusville representative to this committee. There's one application on file for your consideration. Mr. David Carter has expressed his willingness and desire to serve on this committee, and Mr. Carter is on right behind Mr. Tullison.
All right, do I have a nomination, or
Move to approve, Mr. Carter.
have a motion and a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, like sign? You're on, sir. Congratulations. Petitions and requests from the public present. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak? Oh, no.
Ready.
Oh, no.
For the record, my name is Dwight Severs, reside here in the city of Titusville. Again, thank you for your appointment of me to the board. I'll certainly try to faithfully perform those duties and obligations. I want to come tonight before you to express some concern about our public schools here in District 1, City of Titusville, etc. I realize the importance to the growth of the city is having a viable, for economic development purposes, viable business and industrial development. As an essential part of that are public schools. And it is interesting, and I have experience in that in the sense that my wife was a public school teacher now and was a school counselor. Had 6 children attend the public schools, have resided in North Brevard for 50 years. So I've had an opportunity to observe what's going on and participate to a limited degree. But the important thing to me is that my observation over the last 50 years is a gradual decline in the public schools within North Brevard. Perhaps that initially began when the school board offices, which formerly were here in Titusville, ultimately ended up in, I'll say, Vieira land, and the emphasis and the dollars that went to the south end of the county. It was later really recently emphasized by the closing of South Lake Elementary in 2013. South Lake at that time was at a B grade as far as a school. And prior to that, Riverview had been closed here in the city of Titusville. Many of us expressed our concerns, and we heard Dr. Bingley say, well, it will not have an impact upon the schools nor the children being moved around 2 or 3 times within the last few years. That's what he said. And many members of the staff likewise said there wouldn't be any overcrowding issues and there wouldn't even be any problems with the other schools. However, the evidence or proof is in. The evidence clearly shows within Brevard County this last year, 24 schools had an A rating. In District 1, except for Sculptor, which is not owned and operated by the school board, 0 A schools in District 1, 0. And you compare that with 2013, there were a number of schools that were A rated. For example, Apollo, which historically was known as an excellent school, was an A school. This last year was a C school. Through the redistricting process, Imperial Estates, Coquina, Mims, Oak Park.
Let me interrupt you. Would you like some more time, sir?
Yes, please.
2 minutes?
About 2 minutes probably will do it.
Do I have a motion?
And make that motion.
Second? I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes.
At Coquina, 5 different schools received additional students, etc. Out of those 5 schools, every one of them since 2013 have a lower grade today than they did in 2013. Why? someone must ask the question. In my mind, it's very simple. The school board did not provide adequate resources to accommodate the change in redrawing the line and the financial impact and human impact upon these schools. They simply didn't do so. Interesting enough, the one board member who's still there, Mr. Ziegler, he was the 3-2 vote. He flipped when it came to C Park. That school in 2013 was B school. 2018, it's an A school. Isn't that interesting? What I respectfully suggest to you that the closing of these schools has had an impact upon the city of Titusville, has an impact on all of you and the citizens of Titusville. I do plan on going before the school board at their public hearing on the budget and respectfully suggesting they need to allocate additional resources to District 1 and the schools within our district. Now, the likelihood of anything happening is probably next to none, but your voice likewise needs to be heard because there is a problem with how we're being treated within the school district and the school board. Thank you.
Mr. Severs, are you aware that they did reopen?
Oh,
Southwell?
I'm well aware of that. That doesn't solve the problem because that's now a school of choice.
I just wanted, you didn't mention
Oh, yeah,
that.
I'm aware of that.
Okay, all right.
They should never close it to begin with.
I agree with that, certainly. Member Nelson?
I've had some heartburn over the last couple of years, and I sort of felt like I was, hitting my head against the wall. It's amazing that the high schools in North Brevard provide vocational training for our kids. We have culinary, we have CNA, and we have carpentry. If you go south, they have aviation, robotics, law academy. They have, what else? Robotics.
Maritime, aviation.
Yeah,
Criminology.
that's law academy. And I'm like, what happened to us? When did we get our share of that pot? And our kids get that share and that advantage. And so to me, it's really aggravating.
Well, I know 3 of you have been very directly involved in education, needless to say, and are involved. So,
I know Member Behringer, Vice Mayor Behringer, has suggested maybe a meeting with the school board. I don't know if that would move anything. We do have a new superintendent.
well, I would suggest that the mayor, for example, meet with the superintendent.
Coincidentally, I did last week, but we didn't discuss that matter, and he seemed very open to conversation on just about anything, so I can pursue that, certainly.
I think
I would-
we need to do something for the benefit of our children. I still have a granddaughter here in the public school system and daily involved with school.
Yeah. And we'd like to have, you're right, and people don't come to Titusville because our schools aren't on par with the schools down south. And our friend actually moved to Merritt Island, looked at Titusville, was working at a space center. It was closer for him to live in Titusville. He moved to Merritt Island because of the schools. So if we don't have good schools, we're really behind the 8 ball. So I would ask.
I'm writing it down right now.
I can't be in there writing notes to you going. But,
And
I wrote a note to myself.
Mr. Mayor, if somebody would like to attend the public hearing on their budget, it's
First thing I'd
September the
like to
6th.
First thing I'd like to do is talk to the superintendent.
Certainly. Thank you.
Well, thank you,
Thanks.
sir. Appreciate that. Anybody else? Wait 1 second. We have other lights here. Member Barron, Vice Mayor Barron.
Yeah, I'm going to offer a few,
Is this a question for Mr. Severs? or-
well, I think a comment to council in regards to some of the,
No, should I bring him back?
no, I don't believe so unless Mr. Severs had a question about what I would propose. So I'm not going to beat the drum too far, but I am going to say, I I think that Mr. Seaver's observations are accurate. I think North Brevard has woefully been denied resources that have resulted in inequity and opportunity. I think that that's substantiated through data previously. I think that the district is fully aware of the lack of resources, and they're trying to manage those, and yet we always come up on the wrong end consistently. The fact that I applaud the district's movement of reopening a school that should not have been closed in the first place and potentially giving more opportunity. But really, if you take that as our big win, those kids were 10 years out until those kids are ready for the workforce. So what do the next 10 years look like for those who are already in the system who are not involved in that program? That's a decade that, again, our kids are losing out. I can only defer to Member Diesel's experience within his school. It's an amazing resource that we have to provide insight. As far as opportunity, and I'll share, this is a personal opinion, but what my context or understanding of how and why and what to do. A few years ago when the school district was doing the closings of the schools and so forth and so on, that was something that as a citizen I had come to council to discuss, say, please, this is not okay, please be aware. And I would share with you, not all, but my perception was that there was a portion of it until it got too far down the road that the connection of what was happening in the impact wasn't measured to the gravity of the outcome we now see. And because of that, we can see it now, but I think that we've lost a group of kids throughout that process who have unfortunately experienced, when you're in school for 5 years and you change 3 as an elementary school, that's a big deal. That's a huge deal, right? And I think that some of the juvenile issues, the juvenile crime issues that we have, and then throw in the tank economy during that time, right? So as far as how do we move forward, one is that I fully believe that the school system has identified that there is a gap in North Brevard. I believe that they know that. I think that Ms. Archer, who is in equity, she knows it, the district knows it, and at the end of the day, it comes down to who's going to get louder. And we, as a community, fall short compared to other communities, I believe. We got South Lake back, we've gotten some programs, but not to the extent that I think that I'll use Viera as an example, tends to rally behind their schools a little bit when needed, and resources go there. I would propose 2 things. One is that our current interlocal with the Brevard County School District is, I think, limited in scope to meeting the needs of our community. I would really strongly suggest that we as a council look at that interlocal agreement with them and see if it's really meeting our needs. And if it's not, open the discussion with the district to say, we might need some more language in there for things that we care about. And that would be one step. The additional step, unfortunately, our meetings fall on the same days as the school boards at the same time. And so we physically can't be in 2 places at once as a council, which is disheartening. Possible ways to do that, of course, would be independent meetings. That would be one. But I would go so far as that, and it's creating more, I would feel very comfortable that if we had a working board, if it's an ad hoc committee, we do it for Parks and Rec, we do it for, if we had an ad hoc group appointed by the city that was able to bring concerns of education from the city, at least to council, and be able to go and represent the city down there, I think that a working functional group through City Hall would be an appropriate step to help bridge this gap. And in absence of that, I don't know if we're ever going to get the critical mass to move it forward and stay ahead of it. So that would be my second recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, and I think that's Well said and well taken. I would like to meet with our representative and Mr. Mullins, the Superintendent Mullins of the school board before we took that action to see if he's aware of it. He's brand new. He's brand new being in the top position, but he's been here for a number of years. So I'll do that, and then we'll see where we'll go from there. Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Severs. I have one. Member Nelson, you have anything else you wanted to say?
I just wanted to say this, just to give you
Cool. Diesel.
ammunition.
Go ahead, let's
Ammunition.
finish.
I think I jumped
No,
in.
go ahead, go ahead.
Okay,
Ammunition is that right?
ammunition. Yeah,
Ammunition.
I'm giving you ammunition.
Okay.
I talked to Stephanie Archer a couple months ago. The aviation program for, I believe it's O'Galley High, $500,000. So they have no problem giving Melbourne $500,000. And they can't find a carpentry teacher to even teach our kids carpentry. So when we talk about inequities, to me, that just sort of smacks me in the face.
Okay.
So I thought I should mention that to you,
That's a big mention.
and you can mention it to him.
I will do so. Member Diesel, please. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay, we're fine.
Sorry about that.
No worries. A couple of clarifications. Since I've been at Titusville High School for 35 years and was head of the administrator over CTE the last 6 or so, we don't have carpentry, and we haven't had carpentry in probably 20 years. We do have auto tech, and a lot of kids get jobs out of auto tech. Don't misunderstand me, it's not as fancy as aerospace. I get that, and I'm for that. And believe me, I'm right there with you, Mr. Severs, and I will continue on that. But there's a lot of good things going on in North Brevard, and sometimes I think there's this hype and almost this swag that goes with being, you know, Vieira or Satellite or Merritt Island, and somebody went to Merritt Island instead of Titusville. And I can't speak to all the levels, but I can tell you that Titusville is a B school, Merritt Island High School is a B school. You know, and the other thing I would say too, and I wouldn't be fair to my former colleagues if I didn't at least say that sometimes our scores are exactly the same and sometimes even a little higher, but the state in their infinite wisdom changes the bar in the middle of the testing, and we went from being an A school to a B school with no fall down in our score. We're still scoring the same things and scoring even higher, but they've changed. You've got to have your lower 10% or your lower quartile go up this many points, or, you know, everything went up, but we didn't go up enough. So that being said, I don't want anybody who's working hard out there as a teacher to feel like we're saying we're not doing as good a job here. I don't think that's been the perception, but I just want to get that said. It did, in my mind, all start when they went down, as we used to call it, the cow pasture. And I think that there became an importance placed south of 528 that's always bothered me. And this is not an academic thing, but I can tell you that from an athletic, having been an athletic director for 13 years, I can speak there without being stereotyped, I hope. But when it comes to AstroTurf fields, I can tell you that there's 2 on Babcock Street, less than 5 miles apart, one at Palm Bay and one at Melbourne. And I don't know, I'm trying to think, I think Merritt Island just got one, and they'll come back to me and say, well, we fundraised for that and we fundraised for this. There certainly was some school board involvement in those things, and that's great. But north of 528, I think we just now, that's not even north of 528, but Merritt Island's got one now. I think it's their second year with that. But 2 AstroTurf fields, 2 rubberized tracks within 7 miles of each other in the Melbourne area. So I certainly feel that there is has been in the past a discrepancy on the monetary help. I would also say that I've never been a fan of superintendents, and, you know, I'm retired now. So anyway, I've never been a fan of superintendents that aren't from here. I've never been a fan of this, you know, all-out search when we've got such quality people like Mark Mullins in this case, and we can go back to other superintendents that we've had. I know DePatri came from somewhere else, but he seemed to be here long enough to at least understand the culture. But we had I've got to be careful about this one. We've had superintendents that didn't even have their family go to our schools, and I won't say who it is. How's that? The point I'm making is you've got to know the culture. You've got to be a part of it. You know, I've always put it, the difference between a renter and an owner. And if you're an owner, you're going to take ownership. And that's what we've got to get. I feel like we have that in Superintendent Mullins. I feel like a meeting with Superintendent Mullins and our mayor will go a long way. But I did want to say, without getting in too many circles, that the schools in North Brevard are doing a fine job. The CTE programs here are outstanding. We don't have a class in robotics, and I'm not sure there is such a class. But if there is, I can tell you that Titusville High School is one of the top robotics programs in the entire nation. And that, I say THS, I'd have to include astronaut with that too, because they combine, and we've got some tremendous help from engineers at NASA and on the Space Center helping lead these things. So we've got a lot going on here on the good side, but there's no denial that things seem to shift south when we shifted the school board. So that's kind of where I'm at from 35 years of being there. Titusville High School is a B school, Merritt Island's a B school, and I will take, of course I will. I'll take that high school over any of them.
Thank you, Member Diesel. Anybody else like to speak? I see no other lights, so we'll go on to the next subject. And we will pursue this, and I've written myself all kinds of notes now, so. Next item, please. Where are we?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, petitions and requests, yes, I'm sorry. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr.
How
Mayor.
are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good.
Laura Ward, River Edge Drive. I haven't been around for quite a while, medical stuff, and I won't be able to attend your meetings for another quite a while. So I wasn't able to attend the Heights workshop. I watched it on television, and I would just like to remind you, because you're going to be working on that in the future, my feeling is that if you want, the city is changing, and there are things going on here that you need to be aware of. And I know that there are definitely places in the city where additional height would be appropriate. And I think we could all name off sites where it would be, welcome and do good things for the city. Probably that marina site that you talked about is one of them. We have undeveloped sites that additional height could add some incentive, like the old, I call it the old Big Apple up there north.
Big Apple, that's right.
Been there long enough to call it Big Apple. And there's, many more around the city. But I want you to remember, please, I live on River Edge Drive, and the River Edge Drive neighborhood plan and all the wars down there that some of you may remember started over inappropriate development being foisted onto areas that it wasn't appropriate for, in particular residential areas. So right now, because of that, I feel inappropriate zoning that was placed way back, we have some tiny little spot of shoreline mixed use, which is your zoning district where you would look for additional height first. I think that's where you're going to get asked for it first. And we have that on our dead-ended street. And like I say, that's what started all the uproar over heights. And that, because of that, the River Edge Drive neighborhood plan was developed, which kind of, everybody had to come to agreements, and it sort of put a stop to all that arguing. And the city recognized, that was your first neighborhood plan that the city had. And the city recognized it as being a really good thing and adopted it into its comp plan. So now we have development on our street, the kind of development we've wanted. We have a subdivision of single-family homes going in. They're selling well. I expect that they will develop.
Would you like additional time, ma'am?
Please.
How long, 2 minutes?
Yes, that'd be fine.
I have a motion?
Motion.
Yeah.
I have a second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So the subdivision is selling, the homes are selling well, and I would expect them maybe to develop the 10 acres south of them. That would be kind of what I'm thinking might happen. At the end of the street, we have larger homes on larger lots developing in that gated community. They're pulling permits in there now. So, you know, things are happening that are good down there. And I'm just asking you to remember this. If you change a zoning and you don't make it site-specific, if you just blanket change a zoning category, and you allow the additional height across that zoning category as a right, remember that you have the unintended consequence of it's located in a residential area down on River Edge Drive. So be aware that it should be site-specific and it should be very carefully placed. That's all I'm asking you. Don't forget River Edge. I think we're the only ones that have that kind of situation. But I could be wrong. There could be many places in other zoning districts that I'm not familiar with where it could impact a residential neighborhood if you're not careful. Okay?
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. It's nice to see you again.
Nice to see you, too. Oh, wait, we have one question.
Ms. Ward, thank you. And thank you. It's not a question to your comment, but I did, while you're here, have you had an opportunity to see the bus stops?
I have.
How
I
are
see
we
them
doing there?
around.
Finally.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, thank you so much. Really, I think it's wonderful.
yeah.
I have not had a chance to drive and see, like, did you get 10? I mean, I haven't talked to Peggy. She's been away, and I've been out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got 10. Okay, so now we need 10 more.
She wants 20.
Scott just said 10. Do we have 12? Was it 12?
So,
So,
12
great.
more. 12 more.
Yeah, we could work on a few more. I'd be glad to do that when I get back in shape. But, you know, it's a wonderful thing. I hope they're in the right place. I know you tried to put them in the right place. I've had some thoughts about them. I know a lot of them are located in the CRA. And I'm thinking maybe the CRA could buy the rest of us to pay for the ones they got, because well, it's going like maybe not. But anyway, we still need a few that aren't in yet. But thank you so much for accomplishing that. Took a while, but it's there.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, anybody else wish to speak on to petitions and requests? I see no takers. We'll go on to consent agenda.
Yes, sir, Mayor. We have no cards. Staff would like to pull item G for your discussion. And does council have any items that you would like to pull?
1 second. Any items?
Okay, sir, I'll read A through H for the record.
Okay.
Consent agenda item 8A, approve resolution number 21, 2018, amending the concurrency technical manual contingent upon and consent with the adoption of ordinance 39, 2018, amending chapter 34 relating to site plan timeframes. Consent agenda item 8B, approve the award of the contract subject to resolution of the contract terms by the city manager and city attorney for bid number 18B045 to Massey Corporation of Port Orange, Florida, for the installation of the Southern Area Service Main Loop in the amount of $1,428,284.22, and authorize the mayor to execute the contract. Consent agenda item 8C, approve the award of contract RFP 18P056 with Garganzi, Weiss, Agresta, and Salzman, PA, for a 5-year term with an annual authorized amount of $15,000. Additionally, authorize the mayor to execute the agreement subject to final negotiation and contract terms with the city attorney. Consent agenda item 8D, approve the award of work order AECOM WR002 to AECOM Technical Services of Orlando, Florida, in the amount of $114,034 to provide engineering consulting services, including but not limited to the confirmation of selected dewatering technology, preparation of specifications for trailer-mounted dewatering system, and preparation of primary design to permanent dewatering. Consent agenda item 8E, approve the award of work order CDMWR003 to CDM Smith in the amount of $21,702 to provide engineering consulting services, including but not limited to engineering evaluation of waste-activated sludge thickening technologies for the Osprey plant, and authorize the city manager to execute the work order. Consent agenda item 8F, approve Hopkins Avenue Improvements LAP supplemental agreement to adjust the Florida Department of Transportation reserve funding amount to reflect the project award plus 10%, which yields a reserve of $123,700 for change orders and allow $20,265 of grant funds to be returned to FDOT. Additionally, approve the associated resolution 20-2018. Consent agenda item 8G, approve staff direction on options to modify a local preference policy. Subsequently, staff will come back to council with an ordinance as directed by council. And consent agenda item 8H, approve the permission to enter property agreement with the State of Florida Department of Environmental Protection to install a monitoring well within the city rights of way. And we will discuss item G, and you will need a roll call vote. There is a resolution in this consent.
Okay, I'll accept the motion on items A through F at this time.
And H.
And H.
I'm sorry, and H. I have that down there too. That without G, right. A through F and H.
Move to approve consent agenda items A through F and H.
Do I have a second? Second. Any further discussion? Not hearing any. Roll call vote, please, clerk.
Member Diesel?
Yes.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Behringer?
Yes.
Member Stokel? Yes.
Passes unanimously. Item H.
At the council meeting on May 22nd, 2018, when the award of the contract for the installation of force main on State Route 405 was presented to council for approval, both the local city Titusville firm and Brevard County firm were eligible for the award under the city's local preference policy. During the meeting, City of Titusville firm representative stated that when addressing the city council, that the local preference discount was not correctly applied, and the city council asked the city purchasing and contracting administrator to clarify the application of the policy. Council requested staff come back to council with recommendations to modify the local preference that incorporates the application of the policy. Accordingly, there are two options presented to council for your consideration, and we have our city's purchasing and contracting administrator here to answer any questions that you may have on this topic.
Okay. I'd like to make a comment right off the bat, though. Of the two, the first, I'm sure you've all read them, is much simpler, much clearer, and I think that's where we got in trouble with the last one. It wasn't clear enough and was misconstrued, so that's what I would like to see. But anybody like to talk on the subject or ask Ms. Osaka? Any questions? Member Nelson?
Would be Jesus over here, sir.
Oh, Jesus, I'm sorry. Yes, Member Nelson.
Okay, my preference was for option B, and the reason being,
What?
hey, the attorneys have to think of these things, right, Mr. Room down there?
You remember counsel now.
Oh, well, yeah, but I can't get rid of the rest of it.
Go ahead.
Okay.
You didn't give your reason.
I don't know if I can do it now. My thought is, A comes in, A's a local firm. A's bid is $500,000. B comes in, B is in Cocoa, and their bid is $400,000. as a council member, I can't justify giving a local firm an extra $100,000.
I don't
I
think that's the way it works. Jesus,
And that's sort of how I
Well, let's have
read
him
number
come up.
one. Or
Can I
option
make a
A.
comment about?
yes.
Good evening.
Okay,
Good evening, Councilman.
so you're going to make it make sense?
Well, the local preference, the highest percentage that a firm would be allowed would be 5%, and that would be on contracts under $500,000, when the award is under $500,000. So under those contracts, the maximum difference between a low bid and a City of Titusville bid would be like 24, 25,000 in that range. So you
Okay.
wouldn't have, you know, a gap of 100,000 or anything in that order of magnitude. And then after that, all the others would be lesser than that amount.
So basically, under option A, we're looking at 1, 2, 3, but it doesn't indicate the 5%.
Well,
I mean, that's the way I'm reading it.
You have to go back to the part of the policy that right now establishes the 5%. It would be under Section A. The Section A establishes the 5% for projects up to $500,000. And A2 is 3% for projects between $500,000 and $1 million. And 3%, and A3, 2% for awards over $1 million up to $1.5 million, and that would be for a Titusville firm.
Jesus, can I borrow that? I'm sort of lost here in it, and I want to make sure. Okay. Okay, in that case,
And then we have county, so we were adding this. This is what we're.
that's the part that you're adding. So then, actually, the first one is, option A is clearer than option B. Okay. I found it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I stand corrected.
That's okay. That's why we have questions. That's why we have questions. Member Diesel?
When I pushed my button, I simply was going to agree with you, Mayor, that option A looked much clearer to me. I simply want to know that we won't get in a situation, and I think you've explained it, but I want to say it, that Titusville Company has a bid, and the Palm Bay Company has a bid, and the Palm Bay Company is $162 lower. I don't want to get caught, and that's where we were really struggling with, and we didn't have it in writing that we could fix it. And I think you've done that in option A. Again, it was so minuscule. I literally think it was a couple $100. And I don't remember where the other one was from, but it was not Titusville.
Okay.
Cocoa? Okay, well, that's closer, but I'll go back to Palm Bay. We're on the north side now. So if it's a Palm Bay and Titusville and it's a $500 difference, we're able to make sure that Titusville can still get that bid.
Correct. Under option A, you know, whenever you have a Titusville firm and a Brevard County firm, the Titusville firm will always get the award. Under option B, no. You know, you'll have
Right.
cases
There just
where-
seem to be a lot of percentages and this, that, and the other. I just need to clarify that that's not going to happen again, and you seem to work hard on that. And I simply, again, pushed my button to say, Mayor, I agree. Option A looks much clearer.
Thank you. That's fine. That's what we want to make sure of, certainly. Member Stokel?
Yep, just wanted to reiterate, the first option to me was exactly what I was hoping for from this. And just to touch on Member Nelson, I'm kind of there with you. I do not like to not be good stewards of our money, but I think when I was doing the math, it was such that minor little difference that I feel like by us supporting locally those jobs for our Titusville people, like it was definitely, this is exactly what I was looking for. So thank you for it.
The idea is the money would stay in Titusville rather than go to some.
When it's not that significant
Yeah,
of a
well,
jump.
exactly. If it's a
Yes.
larger number, then no,
Correct.
none of us want to see
Exactly.
that. That was Member Stokel. You were the last one. Anybody else have anything? Okay. We're ready to take a motion then, unless somebody else has a question.
Move to provide advisability on local preference. The first policy. Option A.
Okay, do I have?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? This does not require a roll call? No. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Same sign. Passes unanimously. Good job. Ordinances, second reading. Mr. City Attorney.
Yes, sir. Next item is item 9A, ordinance number 37, 2018, plant nurseries and community commercial. This is the second reading of second public hearing of ordinance number 37, 2018, an ordinance of the City of Titusville, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances to create a pilot program for plant nurseries as a limited use in community commercial CC zoning, amending Section 2854 use table, amending Section 28215 plant nursery, providing for severability, repeal of conflicting ordinances, an effective date, and incorporation into the land development regulations.
Based on a citizen's request, council directed staff to develop an ordinance establishing a one-year pilot program to allow plant nurseries as a limited use in community commercial zoning district. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval 5-0. The recommendation from P&Z included 1, stabilized parking agreement, 2, sanitary facilities. These subsections should state that such agreement with the adjacent property owner shall be required prior to approval of a plant nursery, language from A, and 2, prior to issuance of a BTR, the applicant must secure the appropriate license from the Florida Department of Agriculture. Ms. Busak is available to answer any questions that you may have on this, your second reading and second public hearing.
Staff, do you have any questions for staff, council? I see no questions. Open the public hearing. Are there any cards on this?
No, sir.
No cards. I'll close the public hearing. Council, any discussion? If not, I'll call for a motion.
I think Ms. Busaka had.
I just want to say that,
Oh, I'm sorry.
that the recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Board that the sanitary facilities would be on an adjacent property is really what the staff has intended, and I'd like to suggest that that language be added into paragraph I.
Okay.
It would be the same paragraph, same language as in paragraph F, where it requires that stabilized parking is an adjacent property as well.
Okay. Any discussion on that? We're ready for a motion, which will, of course, hopefully include that.
Move to approve ordinance number 37, 2018, plant nurseries and community commercial zoning, community commercial, to include a stabilized parking agreement and sanitation facilities, basically an agreement with the adjacent property owner prior to the approval. And a license from Florida Department of Agriculture.
You got it.
I think I got it right.
I think you did too. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I think you got that one, Vice Mayor. Not by much. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I see no lights. All those in favor say, oh, roll call. There we go. Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Behringer?
Yes.
Member Stokel? Yes. Member Diesel?
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Next item, please.
Next item is 9B, which is ordinance number 38, 2018, flagpoles and urban village zoning. Ordinance number 38, 2018, an ordinance of the City of Titusville, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances to clarify height limits and to permit additional height of flagpoles in urban village zoning districts by amending Chapter 28 zoning, specifically amending Section 328 urban village UV, providing for severability, repeal of conflicting ordinances, an effective date, and incorporation into the code. This is the second reading and public hearing for this ordinance.
Based on a request from a member of the public, council approved advisability to amend the urban village zoning district standards relating to height of flagpoles. The proposed ordinance establishes that one flagpole up to 80 feet may be installed within the project. This is your second reading and public hearing of ordinance 38, 2018. Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval 5-0, and staff is available to answer any questions that you may have regarding this ordinance.
Are there any questions of staff on this? I see none. Clerk, are there any cards on this item?
We have one card. It's Cliff Aiken.
Sir, you wave your card. Okay, thank you, sir. We'll close the public hearing. Any council discussion? I see no lights. Call for motion, please.
Move to approve ordinance number 38-2018, flagpoles and urban village zoning.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. Any further discussion? Not hearing any. Roll call vote, please, clerk.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes?
Vice Mayor Behringer?
Yes.
Member Stokel? Yes. Member Diesel?
Yes.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Next item, C.
Next item is 9C, ordinance number 39, 2018, timeframes for site plans. Ordinance number 39, 2018, an ordinance of the City of Titusville, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances to clarify timeframes related to review and approval of site plans by amending Chapter 34 procedures, specifically creating Section 34-217 timeframes, providing for severability, repeal of conflicting ordinances, an effective date, and incorporation into the code. This is the second reading and public hearing of this ordinance.
Currently, the code is not clear on timeframes relating to the review of site plans. The proposed ordinance establishes an applicant shall have 24 months from the date of site plan submittal to obtain a site plan approval, and that the site plan shall be valid for a period of 12 months, during which time the application for applicable building permits shall be made. Upon application of the required building permit, the timeframes relating to the building permit shall govern. And Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of this action 5-0. This is your second reading and public hearing of ordinance 39, 2018. Staff is available to answer any questions that you may have on this ordinance.
Any comments, Ms. Pusaka? Any questions from council for Ms. Pusaka? I see none. Clerk, are there any cards on this item? Yes, sir. I'll open the public hearing. Now I'll close the public hearing. Any further council discussion? If not, I'll call for motion.
I'd move to amend, or
It's all right.
it's only 7:30, 7:25. Move to approve ordinance number 39-2018, the timeframes for site plans.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not hearing any. Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Behringer?
Yes.
Member Stokel? Yes. Member Diesel?
Yes.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes. Next item is item D. City Attorney?
This is not an ordinance. Item D is Development Agreement Number 1, 2018, which is a third amendment to the Titus Landing Development Agreement.
The applicant, Excel Project Management, on behalf of the owner, Titusville Harrison 1 LC, has submitted a development agreement application requesting a third amendment to the development agreement number 3-2013 for a property located at 2500 South Washington Avenue. The property subject of the request is approximately 30.86 acres in size and currently has an approved development agreement and final master plan. The amendment proposed is this request allows additional structure height to allow one flagpole up to 80 feet in height, consistent with the changes proposed in Section 328, which establishes the zoning district standards for urban village zoning district, which were requested by the developer of Titus Landing. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval as action 5-0. This is a public hearing for the amendment of Development Agreement 1-2018, and Ms. Busaka is available to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions for Ms. Busaka? I see none. Clerk, are there any cards? I'll open the public hearing. Are there any cards on this item?
We have a card with Mr. Aiken.
You're waiving your cards, right? Your right to speak. Okay, thank you. I'll close the public hearing. Any further council discussion? I'll accept the motion.
Move to approve the third amendment to the Titus Landing Development Agreement, number 1-2018.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Motion and a second. We'll do a roll call on this one also.
Member Stokel? Yes. Member Diesel?
Yes.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes,
Vice Mayor Berenger?
Yes.
passes unanimously. Congratulations, gentlemen. It's been a good night. No ordinances, first reading, no old business, no new business. Any petitions and requests from the public present? Anyone like to speak? I see no one. Mayor and council reports. You have my written report. Any other council wish to bring anything up? For the good of the order? Yes, sir.
Basically, just wanted to say, oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, ma'am. It's not even late. Anyway, got no excuse. I just wanted to note that I guess it was not this past Sunday, but the previous Sunday, I attended the St. James AME 126th birthday celebration with Pastor Davis's invitation. I just simply want to say it was an outstanding event. They had a reception afterwards, had a packed house, and it was just a lot of fun. It was certainly with some of the situations they've had in that area, it was a bit of a focus, and I thought it went very, very well. Tomorrow, I will join another council member. She may speak to that. And I'm going to ride the bus with, who am I riding with? Bill. Ride with Bill. I couldn't do that the last few years, so now I can. So yeah, I believe that Miss Jolene is going to accompany me.
We will be riding.
And that's really all I had.
Okay. I have you beat. I went to two church, one opening on Garden Street, the Love Pentecostal, I think it is also.
Oh, cool.
And then the other night, they had the 50th anniversary of the Pentecostal church just off Garden Street, which has been there for, as I said, 50 years. And I at one time had a young fellow that worked for me that subsequently was the minister there for a while and then went up to Ohio, and he was back for that evening. So I got to see somebody I hadn't seen for a long time. Very good. Thank you. City manager's report.
Well, before he gets to it, can I?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
About a week and a half ago, I went with Joe Robinson to talk to the people at the Parish Medical Foundation, and we were looking for funds for the Carter House. They have agreed to give him $10,000, or give it to Joe, not to me, but to Joe.
That's good to hear, especially by the attorney.
Yes, I'm sure. And Parish has offered $20,000. There are 6 Lowe's stores that are joining forces to put that house back together.
Oh, isn't it wonderful?
So it's a gorgeous house. It was built in 1915. It is 3,200 square feet. It's got 3 fireplaces in it. It was the site of the first free public library in Titusville, and it has a birthing room because Mrs. Carter was a midwife. So they will be working on putting that back together. On September 20th, the Boys and Girls Club usually has a breakfast. There is no charge to the breakfast, but we were hoping to get a number of people from Titusville to come. I believe that they are planning on announcing the partnership between the Boys and Girls Club and North Brevard Charities. And my understanding is they want to recognize Parrish and Lowe's. And I have to say, just as a matter of pride, I talked to Chief Cantaloupe from Cocoa. And I asked him, I said, are you putting together a table for this event? And he goes, Cocoa has one every year. So I'm like, one, I think we ought to be there to support Joe and Parrish and Lowe's. But two, it sort of drives me crazy that Cocoa has one every year and we've never had a table. So this is a formal invitation to you guys to come join us at the breakfast. That includes Scott and Richard. We put it on Scott's calendar. We haven't put it on Richard's calendar. But I think it would be nice to show some support to North Brevard Charities, who does so much for us. That's just my spiel.
Very good. You will give all that information to Virginia for us?
I can.
So we make sure we get it?
Okay, I can.
Okay, all right. I appreciate it.
Oh, and I should say the target date for starting, I believe, is the first weekend in October.
Wow, that's
So-
great. Well, I know the work you've done on that, and I congratulate you for getting it done so efficiently and quickly. And,
Mayor, it's not me, it's the community.
well, you
know,
did your part. I know
I
what
just have
you
a big
did.
mouth. It's that attorney mouth.
Okay, whatever you say, I'm not arguing. No, I'm not agreeing either, now understand that. Okay, anybody else have anything, sir?
As tonight is, today is a day where we get to exercise one of the greatest things in our American democracy, and that is the opportunity to vote. And so for all those citizens who engage that process, one is, I just want to say thank them for doing that to make our community better. I fully believe that. The other, and I wanted to give a heartfelt appreciation to the other members of this council, because I think that in other communities at this point, well, very often, politics is a funny thing. It can be a very divisive, and I think this year we have a potential as Americans to have that rear its head, and it's not always pretty when it does. I'd just like to thank the demeanor and the candor and the character of which the other council members of this council hold themselves. It means a lot, and I think that as an example to other communities, it's something that can be modeled, and I also think that it speaks well of the community that we serve and represent. So just a thank you to the council members, just the way that we, I think, conduct ourselves as a body. So appreciate that.
I would add to that I saw a news flash on my cell phone this afternoon that the numbers of people who are going to vote during this election far exceed the last similar election, and that's a good thing. We like to see as many people voting and doing their civic duty as possible. So, righty. Anybody else have anything? City manager?
Yes, sir. No action items for council. Just a reminder, the first budget public hearing is the day after Labor Day on September 4th at 5:30 in City Hall, followed by the final hearing, which is September 13th at 5:30 in City Hall. And I'm not going to get into November because that's a long ways away.
It comes fast.
Yes, sir. Subject to council's questions, that completes my report.
I see nobody pushing any buttons, so, city attorney? Well, look at this now. Hey, that's great. Okay, well, I think we have done everything required for us, of us, and I will declare this meeting adjourned.